gonna keep it as short as I possibly can. Last month, I made the ever so bold move to be as despicable to Peter Thiel as I could be. More so than anyone else who has spoken about him in the past. Some of y'all thought I have essentially called out to him to put me into an early grave. Let me let you in on all you people who have suggested that. In the many times that I have been on death's doorstep, I have felt the presence of all three entities, Jesus, God, and the devil herself. So it's no surprise that eventually it would be a battle of two dark forces. And as crazy as I sound, sometimes it takes a crazy person to even have a chance at taking on another crazy person. But I'm not here to speak ill of Mr. Thiel in this video, but rather something more interesting. More so, the radicalization of Christians on this platform, in this country, who I refer to now as the Republic of the North Atlantic Christian Dynasty. Now, many of you are certainly aware of this, and as crazy as it may seem to some of you, I'm actually an ally to a certain trans VTuber that has been making a mess of certain people's lives on this platform, even on Twitter. She recently had a debate with a certain VTuber who was a Christian and a conservative. I think you all know where this is heading. Though I will admit one thing though. This other VTuber is not a Christian nationalist. Rather, I would say more along the lines of a sympathizer. No, the title of Christian nationalism goes to another particularly fascinating VTuber that this trans VTuber got into a scuffle with on Twitter. Now, unbeknownst to those VTubers, I showed some of my members of my family who are devout Catholics and Christians all the stuff these particular VTubers made public. They told me that they never felt more disgusted in their life that these VTubers are even a representation of the Christian faith. And I'm not the only one. There are many Christians who support not only the trans community, but other people of all walks of life, who, as I speak right now, thanks to a particular video by Midas Touch, there are actually Christians who are fighting against Christian conservatives like the ones that were making this trans VTuber's life a living nightmare. Even the current great Pope Leo has condemned individuals like those particular VTubers. Even though I am the Dragon of Satania, I stand alongside those who are true to the teachings of God and don't cause unjustified hate among people. Some of you might think this is a slander video. How can this be a slander video if I'm not the only one thinking the same thing that most well-rounded and open-minded Christians have voiced about? If you have a problem with what I say, why don't you go ask people outside your denomination? And remember, don't be biased. 39% of Americans who have a problem with trans people, immigrants, both legal and illegal, like to play these little mind games, making people think Christian conservatives don't have a problem with them. But according to 55% of the average Christian, they all could see they actually do. And as someone who lives in Texas, that's right, you little slime, Satan's dragon is literally in your backyard. I will say something that will ultimately insult you and other Christian conservatives. If the Pope says, let illegal immigrants in, I say, hell yeah. If open-minded and true to God Christians say, let trans children exist, I say, hell yeah. If a Muslim wants to be a mayor of New York who has the best interest of constituents, I say, hell yeah. If 2% of the entire Minnesota population, being Somalians, are overrunning that state, I say, hell yeah. Why would I say this, especially on the internet, causing many to form lynch mobs against me? Because that is what America is supposed to be. Ever since the writing of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Oh, but that's happened because of this and that, and we need to walk back or reform some of the laws and amendments so that people don't abuse them. Really? You think that just because of a few thousand clowns is enough justification to make a blanket reform over tens of millions, and quite now frankly hundreds of millions of Americans? That is quite honestly the most disgusting thing I have ever heard in my life, especially coming from a Christian. Or a self-proclaimed one for that matter. Why? Because it goes against what America's identity is. A melting pot. Oh, but we don't want other countries' problems to come here. That's the point. As a once neutral nation, we are supposed to allow other countries to duke it out on U.S. soil. However, I will have to admit, we're not supposed to go to them like USAID did. Now, with that statement, I know there's going to be a lot of yes or no questions. Let me go ahead and save you the trouble and essentially give you a rude awakening answer.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Now, here's food for thought. You know what the current problem of the US is? And why all these problems are even happening? Every single person involved in the Epstein case is making people's lives miserable right now. Internet censorship, Epstein, your favorite anime TV show or waifu game disappearing, Epstein, digital ID, Epstein, stupid conspiracies being accepted, Epstein, LGBT issues, Epstein, ICE going crazy, Epstein, Israel, Russia, and China dogpiling on the US, Epstein. Do you see the pattern here? Many Americans are tired of these mind games with the Epstein files. I don't give a damn about timing. I don't give a damn about the what ifs. Just release the info, you insignificant troglodyte Democrats and Republicans. Now, if the problem is Russia, maybe I might be forgiving on time because I know they could be the most annoying leaders. Now, going back on track, I'm going to tell Christian conservatives what they tell people like me. If you don't like something about this country, why don't you move away? The shoe is on the other foot right now. You think empathy is a fallacy because of one dead man? A man who a lot of actual Christians and the Pope condemn? You are not worthy to call yourself a Christian if you think like that. In all my years I have lived in Texas, I grew up knowing downplay conservative rhetoric that simply discredits most people's moral and normal perception. For example, the belief that you know what society is thinking or what's best for society. That has to be a joke, right? That's an impossible task. No one can know or dictate how or what society is thinking. I know I'm off on a tangent, but the point I'm trying to make is, as a Christian, you were never, ever given the right to be some ridiculous white knight trying to protect, quote unquote, protect people. You, as a Christian, are supposed to shut up, open your mind, and accept people for who they are and not what others think or what you perceive to be correct in your diluted world view. In order for that to be accomplished, you're gonna have to be the next Peter Thiel or Curtis Yarvin. Now what? Are you conservative Christians now gonna go to your little rooms or go to your local denomination church and pray to God that I be smited? That's not very Christian of you now, is it? I know that there's some people watching who are going to be little rats and are going to mention what I say to their oh so lovely conservative leaders, causing a rift between me and whoever that may be, and expect some grand 1v1 GTA beach battle. I'm here to tell you that is not going to happen. Not because of cowardice, but because I have no respect for them. The only way I will acknowledge them is if they have the attitude to lambaste those like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Jess Staley, Kevin D. Roberts, and others as hard as I have against Peter Thiel. That's quite a tall order. Now, the best I have ever heard of any kind of dissent in the VTuber sphere was from one that half-heartedly joked and memed by giving the name Dan Bezos. Really? That was your best act of defiance? Dan Bezos? Laughable. 2 days after my video about Peter Thiel dropped, political commentators had gone full nuclear against people like the ones I mentioned in a way that brought so much joy to my dark heart. Did not think I'd notice? You ladies from iHip News are the craziest mother truckers on the internet. And I like what I see. With that, I extend a tremendous amount of respect for you ladies. Also, one thing is to be said about these conservative Christian VTubers and FleshTubers that say they want to have respect happen both ways. So why is it that they read your garbage, but you won't even attempt to read theirs? What is it? Is the information too abstract for your tangible way of thinking? Not simple enough for you? Or is it the fact that you lack compassion, love, and respect? Things Jesus has advocated and taught in that little book you all claim to hold dear to your heart. I am also aware of the different denominations of conservative Christians, nationalists, and sympathizers. Take, for instance, the Duggar family. Not exactly the most Christian for what I'm reading now. To be honest, this is one example of many entertaining follies of Christian nationalists, conservatives, and sympathizers. Before I take my leave, to this little slime VTuber who has a transgender family member, I want to show you this. Let's hope you don't face this unfortunate statistic. Requiescat in pace.